Happy Monday. It is time for Bollocks this evening. I got my man Lenny here. We actually wasted an entire show before the show, yelling at each other before the show, and yeah, it went back and forth quite a bit. So it should be a wonderful show. We have a lot of, this is definitely an uncommon ground situation, and I'm on the right, and you're on the left, which I used to be on the left, never on the right. So I'm in uncomfortable territory over here. Well, but you know, I still have common sense.
You're in the right. You might necessarily not be in the wrong, but you're certainly on the right.
I'm on the right on our argument.
Correct.
So Blake, you alive back there?
Yes, I am alive.
All right.
I am alive despite false rumors.
Blake.
And I would like
Blake, I asked one question. That was yes or no, man. What's going on there? He just.
And I would like to typify it as a discussion, not an argument.
Yes, it was a discussion with
a loud one
with raised voices.
Definitely no noise complaints.
No, that's we're in the
Good
studio.
Insulation, right?
We're in the studio. We got sound barriers, so this is the place to have a discussion.
Discussions, exactly.
A discussion of those with the hard of hearing. All right, first thing we got to do, we got to pay some bills, and I'm going to start us off because we are in Bozard Ford Studios and Bozard Ford Lincoln in St. Augustine. Their goal is to make sure your time and experience buying a car is stress-free, fun, and enjoyable. Bozard is a family-owned Ford dealership that has been in business since 1949. Bozard Ford Lincoln has been a recipient of numerous dealer awards, including being ranked
#1 by Dealer Rater.
#1 by Automotive Dealership in the nation by
Dealer Rater. Is that Rater as in IDER or Rater TER?
TER.
Yeah, because I always hear it as Rater.
Rater.
Thank you. I always screw that up.
Rater.
Good.
All right. Bozard Ford also has won back-to-back President's Awards, which is the highest honor given by Ford Motor Company. Check them out today online at bozardford.com. I can tell you right now, there's not a better company in town for community and being there for its residents. So,
and I like Fords. I drive a Ford. These neighborhood diners are more than just a place to eat. They're where hospitality blooms and friends gather. We know that personally. Bring your own or make new ones. The coffee is always hot, smiles are genuine, and the food tastes like home. Try the pancakes. Every meal is a chance to make memories, share stories, and create bonds that last a lifetime. It's not just about the food on the plate, but the community that comes along together at the table. Come see us at Moultrie Creek Diner or Anastasia Diner. Tell them Andy sent you.
Yeah. Oh, Andy. Good old Andy. So, Andy's great breakfast.
Oh, yeah, we enjoy it.
You haven't tried the daddle cheesesteak yet?
No.
Okay, you got to try that one. We need to do a lunch.
I would do that for sure.
We need to do a lunch date.
Well, somebody we know owes me a lunch, and I think he likes that place.
Mike Davis?
That's it.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Well, you get the trophy on Wednesday's wager because the Pacers that comeback game was crazy. So, all right.
I have a side note on that after we do the next two reads.
South State Bank. The team at South State Bank is a group of bankers you can count on. Their approach to building long-term relationships with their customers is the best in the business. If you're looking for a banking relationship you can depend on, and check out South State Bank. They got 3 locations. They've got 3 locations.
3, count them 3.
Trace. Wait, I better not talk Spanish right now. People knock at the door.
They'll disappear you.
Locations served in St. Augustine, State Road 312, State Road 16, and at the beach. Visit the website at southstatebank.com.
A to Z offers free estimates and has been serving St. Johns County for over 20 years in the construction industry. A to Z offers painted metal roofs for saltwater area homes with warranties up to 25 years. A to Z offers shingle roofs with warranties up to 50 years. A to Z also installs tile roofing, cedar shake shingles, designer roofing, and flat roof coverings. Recent job photos with material descriptions can be seen at A2Zroofingandwaterproofing.com.
All right. Our newest sponsor, and I can tell you this, and one thing is I stand behind all our sponsors, and just this past week, I had to call these guys, and they were there on time and just did an amazing job. Mr. Electric. Need a trusted electrician in St. Augustine? Call Mr. Electric of St. Augustine, a local veteran-owned business providing expert residential and commercial electrical services across St. Johns, Flagler, and Putnam counties. From panel upgrades and lighting installs to safety inspections and EV chargers, one of our topics today. They are licensed pros to do it all, with upfront pricing and satisfaction guaranteed, backed by the neighborly, done right promise, flexible scheduling, no surprises, just dependable hometown service. Call them at 904-289-1217 today. That is 904-289-1217. Mr. Electric of St. Augustine, your local power experts. Appreciate you guys coming out and helping us out and getting those. We had some things that were in the way, and we didn't want to zap ourselves and make ourselves a little, or make our hair stand up. Yeah, so that's why you call the experts.
Exactly. Don't lick your fingers before you stick them in the outlet. It hurts.
Yeah, well, it only for a little bit.
Right. Get your heart pumping.
Until you go unconscious and you let go.
Get your heart pumping.
All right, Lenny, we have the first part of the show. We go back and forth, and Blake gets to pick the topic. And then the second half of the show, we're doing 5 questions.
I have 5 answers.
Did you bring any questions with you today?
No, I left my questions home.
Okay. All right. I have 2 questions here. I may or may not make up more questions. If not, we go to the box of questions.
All
right. Okay. And the box of questions includes questions from Chick-fil-A kids. So,
Toys R Us kids?
No, these are the questions that just pop up, and we're going to pull them out of the box if we have to do that.
There were days I was not smarter than a 5th grader. Yeah, I will say that.
I can tell you most days I'm not. All right, so I'm putting my box of questions over there if we need them, unless the questions come at us in a lot of different ways.
I have a good one I still remember one that I didn't ask last week.
Yeah, and Lenny, I'm not so sure about that. I mean, I see what you're saying, but as a judge,
right now,
as a judge, you before the show you were talking about a judge. So
2 of them, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, you were talking about a judge, and you just compared yourself to a judge.
No, I said maybe I'm more sober than a judge.
Okay.
See, you got to read the second line.
All right. My first category is L.A., a town in which I never want to go back to, but I'm sure I will have to at some point.
When you accept your Oscar.
I have to go to a Dodgers game at some point in my life. So Anaheim's not really LA, but I'll
big sombrero.
Yeah. It's not really there, but so my category is LA. You have a category which is
Posse Comitatus. That's not dirty talk. It's Latin.
What did you just call me?
That's right.
Jeez. We told him to keep it simple. You see how quickly that ran away from us, Blake?
Fine. It's the power.
It's crazy.
I'll translate it for you. The power of the county.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Just say the power of the county.
Okay.
Cornell.
Doesn't have the ring to it that Posse Comitatus does.
All right. And then we have gas hybrid EV. Okay. So we have LA, Posse, whatever he said.
I'm just thinking of Robin Williams and his favorite wine.
What's his favorite wine?
Pussy Fussy, but he would call it Pussy Fussy.
Pussy Fussy.
Pussy Fussy.
Pussy. Yeah, see, I would have to do it too. All right. Posse Comitatus. What he said. And gas hybrid EV. What do you got, Blake? Which one you going with?
I'm gonna go with L.A.
L.A. Los Angeles.
There's a famous Randy Newman song about L.A. Apparently, he mildly enjoys it.
He loves L.A.
I love L.A. What was his number one song that he had that we really hated?
You got a friend in me.
No, Short People.
Yeah.
Me and I think
you're not partial to that one personally.
Yeah, no. I thought it was a horrible song, and it's very mean, very mean spirited, and he's not tall himself.
No.
Yeah, he's only like 5'7", I think.
Well, he towers over me by an inch and a half if I stretch.
Yeah. So L.A.
Trouble.
Have you watched the videos?
Bits and pieces.
Okay. Yeah. And that's all I can really stand.
Yeah.
because I do not understand. If I was going to, and I hate to use the word because it messes up our algorithms, but I'm going to use the word because there's no other word for it.
Protest.
No, protest is one thing.
Yeah. Well, that's a word you can use, I thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
protest is one thing. I'm okay with the protest. But when you go and you start doing damage and you're blocking people hardworking people to trying to get to work,
yeah,
that's no longer protesting.
No, it's being an asshole.
That's exactly what it is. And like I was saying, I have no problem. You go in the plaza, you can hold up whatever sign you want to hold up, even if I think I might look at you and go, that guy's an asshole, but he's got the right to do that. But when you start walking in traffic, you're throwing bricks at police cars and you're doing illegal activity.
Right.
And they're protesting over people that are here illegally. I am confused by this, Lenny. So I need you to make sense of what they're doing in the streets of LA for the last 3 nights, 2 nights, 3 nights. I think it's 3.
3. It'll be going on 3 tonight.
I think it's 3 tonight.
Well, it's their attempt at civil disobedience, but civil disobedience should be peaceful disobedience. There's no reason to tear down street signs. There's no reason to hurl anything at a cop, because then when you get clinked up, you have no right, and nobody's gonna say, "Oh, poor them," because then they're stupid. You know, whether this is just frustration, and it hasn't even gotten hot yet. Wait, it's the heat of the summer. That's really going to add impetus to a lot of this. But if you're there to protest and you're doing it legitimately, that's fine. You don't need to block traffic, because LA doesn't need any help blocking traffic for sure. That's not anything good. You don't block the 101 because people need to get places. But people are reacting to the heavy-handed fact, and LA has said quite easily that they can handle this with their police and the sheriff's department right now. The governor did not call up the National Guard. It was the president doing it in lieu of the governor. Normally the governor requests federalization.
Well, have they gotten there yet? I don't think they've gotten
National
there
Guard's there.
They are.
The Marines are not. They just called up 700 Marines, or he just activated 700 Marines from Camp Pendleton. Also, it's not the normal National Guard. It's the combat unit of the National Guard, which is not making people comfortable either.
Don't drift into our other topic over here now.
Okay.
Because that's your posse, whatever it is.
All right.
Because I think that's where you're going with
it's all entwined.
Yeah.
It's all entwined. But
and I asked you to tell me what the protesters are thinking.
They're thinking that ICE is rounding up people indiscriminately without due process. They're grabbing people off the street. They're not giving them a right to an attorney or a right to a phone call. They're moving them out of state.
If they're not U.S. citizens, why would they have U.S. rights?
According to the courts, they have the right of habeas corpus. They need to be heard. And once they're heard, then they can be thrown out of the country. And if they're here illegally, I got no problem with that. You got to understand, I have no problem with illegal aliens being deported. I do have a problem with people that are in the country for 20 years being at the top of the list when the president explicitly says it's gangsters, murderers, rapists, and people that are doing crimes in the country.
They're not sending their best.
No, exactly, because they're and proof to me.
But that's not part of it. I can tell you this.
Right.
I know of 3 people that have been not deported, but are being detained right now.
They shouldn't go to their hearing.
Okay. Well, no. They're in Texas. They're gone.
They
were illegal.
Oh, they're already in the detention center.
These were good people.
Okay.
These were good people. These are people that I've had in my house.
Right.
They're good people, but they were illegal. One of them was working off of his brother's ID.
Okay.
And he's had a child here that might help him, but I don't think it does anymore.
No, it used on a humanitarian basis, but no longer.
Where we're at, and we're in lily white St. Johns County. So
mostly, yeah.
So I mean we're kind of isolated from what's going on in LA. But I don't understand. Here's what I find just downright ignorant. Why would you go out and protest and then almost encourage them to arrest you, and you're illegal at the same time, which is happening also, which is mind-boggling to me. And then the other one is, we talk about the gangs. The people I see protesting / rioting aren't Spanish people. The people I saw today in the clips, it was a woman, it was a black woman who tried to run over a police officer.
Well, that's foolish.
This police officer happened to be a white police officer. He gets her out of the car. He's not roughhousing her at all. And he gets her out of the car, stands her up, and she punches him in the face. All right. He goes to grab her again, and she swings. Another officer, a black officer, grabs her from behind. She gets away and still punches the first white officer, who still has not thrown a punch.
Okay. Good for him.
The black officer says, done with this, and cold cocks her, knocks her out cold. All on film. And you know what they're going to say? They're going to, the LAPD is probably going to have to pay her something after she just assaulted a police officer.
She was resisting arrest, and she was obstruction on a police officer. That's a felony.
That's not, that seems to be the logic of the world, but it doesn't seem to be that way in LA. It just doesn't.
We'll see how this one shakes down. But the problem is, you're saying, so it's not the illegal aliens that are protesting. Of course, they can't protest because they're going to get grabbed up right away.
But some of them are, and then they're just walking into the hands.
Well, that's poor
stupid.
planning.
That's
poor planning.
That's just idiotic, in my opinion.
Right.
But then it's the group of people that normally, the Spanish and the black culture in LA normally aren't buddy.
It's in a lot of places in this country that there's a distrust between the African American and the Hispanic populations.
Yeah, and LA's one of those that's pretty strong with that. But that's who I'm seeing protesting, and they don't even know what the hell they're protesting about.
I think they know what they're protesting about, and a lot of it is due process or lack thereof. A lot of it is the fact that if they chase all the illegal Hispanics out of the country, somebody's going to have to pick up the jobs, and that'll take care of the entitlement programs. You get a job, you're off the federal dole. Yeah,
and Rebecca just said, "Why do you need another officer?" Because I can tell you this: a white officer in a situation like that hitting a black woman,
right,
would not, no matter if she hit him or not,
right.
It wouldn't. It's a good thing the other officer was of the same race, or it would have been really bad. It would have been, because all they would have done was clipped him punching her instead of showing the whole clip.
Right.
So it would have been horrible. So that was part of it. But I still, like I said, protest if you want. But if you're stopping someone trying to get to work and you're blocking highways and you're blocking streets,
it's rude.
That's just you're not being American.
Right.
You're being an asshole.
Now, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's conjecture, which I don't know if it's been proven. If it has, I'm not aware of it, and I'm not saying that it hasn't been proven, but I don't know that it has, that in the melee at the Capitol, there were Asian provocateurs by the FBI. Okay. If you can accept that as a reality, it's hard not to accept the fact that to get the violence escalated, to give Donald Trump the ability to what he's been salivating on for years to prove how strong he is, what a strong man he is, how authoritarian he can be, how law and frickin' order, the man who is a felon and flaunts the law every chance he gets. You tell me that you don't think there's people in there ramping up this crowd to incite violence?
You know what? And I'll tell you this: I'm not a firm believer of there were people at January. I think there was one person responsible for January 6th, and he's now our president.
And he's responsible for a lot of this.
I don't think he's responsible for this. He's not the one who said come into our country illegally, and if other people would have handled it properly and just followed the laws that are on the books, we wouldn't be in this situation. This goes back 3-4 presidents.
Okay.
W didn't do a damn thing.
Right.
And at the end, W claimed, oh, well, they stopped coming across the border because we were doing this. No, they stopped coming across the border because our economy sucked.
Right.
And then Obama came in when the economy sucked, and he's like, see, this isn't happening on my reign. Well, as soon as Obama spun the economy, guess what happened? They came back. They came back because the jobs were back.
So what did Trump do in his first 4 years to correct this? That it's now he's
he was going to build a wall.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Yeah, he didn't. He's not. Republicans can't use eminent domain. There was no way he was possibly going to build that wall.
He's grabbing land all across Texas.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
He's expanded the military perimeter.
Okay, CNN. Okay, let's try not to be CNN.
Let's try to be real.
Okay, listen to what I'm telling you right now. All right, he did not grab the land. He would have had to grab like 1,200 miles. All right, to claim what he was going to build.
Okay.
All right. You know how much he grabbed? The great grab that he did. He grabbed 2 properties.
So he can't do it. So he's not good at what he does.
He grabbed. I agree with you. Someone said, "Oh, he's going to build this." He's never going to build that freaking wall.
And Steve Bannon
That's not going to exist. That wall is never going to exist.
Wait, what?
And it's also ineffective. It's also ineffective.
The wall is not going to get built?
Yeah, shocker.
Part of the wall has already been built.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do the percentage, Blake. Do the percentage of how much he said he was going to build and how much actually got built. It's not even close. It's not even. It's less than 2% of what he was going to build.
Let's see, 458 miles.
All right. No way. No, he didn't build 458 miles. Some of that was already there.
A lot of it was rebuilding.
That was already there.
It was rebuilding a lot of it.
No, he did not build 458 miles. That's something the right tried to polish across. There's no way he built that much.
See, you're a hater of Republican
No,
policies.
I'm a lover of being an American.
Right.
So I am firmly in the middle. You're a little further out to the left there.
Touch on this.
Yeah. All right.
And I'm not saying that if you're in the country illegally, you should stay. Go away. Shouldn't have been here in the first place. I don't disagree with that. You know, but the fact that the way he's doing it, the strong arm way he's doing it, and how he's going after, anybody that gets caught up in the net, it's like tuna and dolphins.
Yeah.
You're going tuna fishing, and the poor dolphins got to get out of the net.
How many dolphins actually have gotten caught?
I have no
The
idea.
people I know that got hauled off, they were here. And they're, like I said, I like 2 of the 3 of them.
Tuna and dolphin?
Yeah. But they were definitely tuna. They weren't dolphins.
Okay.
So, so it's, I don't know how many are actually being caught that are, can prove, have a license, and are still getting arrested. Because it's not hard to prove. I mean, here, I can pull out my wallet and show you that I'm I got my driver's license on me. I can vote. And that's the other thing I don't understand. Why do Democrats not want people to prove that they are in this country? Why are they saying that is hard for here? It's not as easy as I thought it was going to be.
What, to get a real ID?
Yeah.
Okay.
To get a driver's license and to prove you're a U.S. citizen.
I think you should.
Yeah.
Okay.
And why do Democrats think that is being prejudiced?
I don't necessarily know if it's, there's an apple and an orange, whether it's the rural African-American communities that the elderly don't have technological savvy or can get themselves to a position or don't drive to go and get themselves a federal ID. That's more the problem around voting. The issue for immigrants has nothing to do with voting because they can't vote. Theoretically, whether they're here as a guest or not. But the question on getting real ID is it's difficult for a lot of people in rural communities, a lot of elderly people, a lot of African-American people who don't have access to this, don't have the records to prove. Find me a 90-year-old person who can get their hands on their birth certificate.
They might have a better chance than the millennials today.
Fair point.
So I mean,
So,
I know
so,
exactly. I know exactly where my birth certificate is.
Yeah.
I know where Blake's is. I know where Ty's is. I know where Rebecca's is, and I know where Maeve's is.
And I know where mine is.
Yes,
And maybe Julie's.
Yes, we when we called that box the old shit box.
That's the old shit box. You grab the
You mean
old
you
shit
grab
box.
that and go? Right.
You
yeah,
grab
okay.
the old shit box.
Yeah.
There's important documents in
Absolutely.
there. Our social
But-
security
But
numbers
my
are
little
in there.
fireproof cave is heavy.
Yeah, it is a little weighty.
Yeah.
I also think our box also shares a Barry Bonds rookie card in there as well.
Well, let's not
Well, I
give
should-
Blake. Let's
right.
not give away that much information here.
What's the
Let's
box?
take
What's the box look like?
And
Where
by
in
the
the
way,
house? Right.
it's not in that box. It's in the safe.
Poor Blake is going
That's
to
in
look
the
for
safe.
it.
So, no, I'm telling you, here's something I found unique to this situation. This election, the Latin Americans shifted to Trump away from the Democratic Party. Now, I think it's because of their religious-based decision makers. All right, because the Democratic Party is the protector of
Everybody's rights.
the rights,
Secularism.
the rights, and there's rules when you're a religious-based decision maker. So I think that's the reason they lean towards Trump. Do you think?
Who is a pillar of religiosity.
So I still haven't figured that one out.
So I mean, that's a huge disconnect.
I don't have anything that I can attach to why
Fascinating.
he was able to grab that.
It was
group.
because of the Dobbs decision, solely the Dobbs decision in the Supreme Court on so many levels.
Yeah.
I mean, you can boil that down to one agenda item,
Yeah.
and it was Dobbs and the Supreme Court.
Okay.
And that's where he got a lot of that power.
But I don't understand that. But the Latin base, they knew exactly what he was going to do with the illegals. So the legal Latins here voted for this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they vote for him in 24 the way he's managing this?
I think there's a lot of buyer's remorse across the entire spectrum of Trump voters, not the hardcore red hats, but a lot of people, and even some members of Congress are saying, we got to stop this. This is getting out of control. I also think that a lot of the Hispanic or Latin voters were doing it based on the economy and where the economy was for them in particular, because the economy was good at the time, and where he promised to take it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Another thing, and it's not one of our lists, but I do want to talk about this. The talks in London right now
With China.
With China.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. What do you think about that? It seems like both sides are just like, hey, we got to play nice or we're going to screw both our economies up.
Well,
so they seem to be moving in a pretty good direction of what we're getting updates from, but we don't know how true those updates are.
Well, the latest economic information of the last couple of days is that China's economy is shrinking.
Mm-hmm.
They're about to go into deflation instead of inflation. Their exports were down, I think it was something like either 13 or 30%. I could have juxtaposed those two numbers. So China needs us in a big way.
Yeah, it sounds like a good time to renegotiate our
there you
loans.
go. Yeah, I was thinking exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, but I think that's encouraging. And that doesn't happen, I don't think, without the Orange Man.
Well, which is it? Are we doing manufacturing in America, or are we going to, keep buying from China?
I think what we're doing
they're a little
is
bit mutually exclusive.
and that could take us to our gas hybrid or EVs.
Okay.
I think what's going to happen is it's going to be a hybrid of those two, which is probably the best solution for both countries.
Yeah.
We're not ready to take over all the tech that we buy from China right now, but we need to be prepared and have some establishment. I mean, our phones, all the tech that's in our
I ain't paying
phones,
$3,000 for an iPhone.
all the phones that are in our cars, or all the technology in our cars, most of that's coming out of the chips out of China.
Right.
So, I mean, we got to be able to manage that better, or at some point the two of us are going to be in a very, very challenging situation.
Well, a majority of the chips, and I think the largest chip producer in the world is in Taiwan. Is that Taiwan Semiconductor, I believe,
Yeah.
is huge. I think semiconductors, the country as worked hard to build semiconductor factories, whether it's Foxhorn, Foxtron, Foxhound, whatever they are.
Yeah.
Built factories here. And that's something that we can potentially ramp up faster than building automotive plants. I mean, we've got empty automotive plants that can be restructured and
they're
rejiggered.
smaller.
Yes, exactly. You can fit them in your pocket and sneak out
They're
with
very
them.
small.
Right. So, but the fact that we're going to start manufacturing Barbie dolls or, all the stuff that you get in Dollar Tree or Dollar General, I don't think that's realistic because our labor force is too expensive. Mm-hmm. It's not the ability to manufacture it. And we've closed an amazing amount of manufacturing plants. But textiles aren't done in the United States with any great size any longer.
And China and a lot of the packaging, like here, I'll just grab this right here.
Mm-hmm.
This little plastic, I don't know how well that's showing up on camera. It's probably invisible to you. All right. This little package here was probably made in China. I don't know if the markers actually were, made in China.
Right, and it should have been, because otherwise they'd have to make it here, ship the container there, put the markers in, and ship it back, which is dumb.
What happens is they send you these, and then you put them together here, and then you can say it was manufactured in the U.S. And that's what a lot of companies do. Not all companies do. You see made in the U.S., but you know what? The little package probably came from China. The cap might have came from, I can't even get off. The cap might have came from China, but they put everything together and they boxed it here, and now that makes it made in the U.S. It's okay to say it.
I'm going to ask.
Every component is made somewhere else, but they put it all together here, made in the U.S.
Right, but not manufactured in the United States because
if you put all the components and you sell this as one whole,
right,
even though all the little components come from another country, you're legally allowed to say it's made in the U.S.
But manufactured in the U.S. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know the difference.
Okay, that's what I'm wondering if there is one.
Yeah, I don't know the difference if there is made or manufactured.
Right,
but it is put together. I mean, like I said, every single, even the paper that's written on might have been made in China. Well, that particular one,
right?
It says made in China.
It comes complete.
But a lot of the made in the U.S. is made there or Mexico or someplace else. Put together here, now it says made in the U.S. and it's not true.
Right. And now they're starting to get smart, and the Chinese are shipping stuff to Mexico and slapping a made in Mexico signature on it to get it across the border less expensively.
All right, I want to talk about your passe comitatus.
Okay.
All right, so you can explain what it is. Blake, you got a definition for us?
Yes, I do. So the thing you talk about is assembled in the United States, not really made in the United States. So basically,
do they have to use the words assembled to make it legal?
Yeah. So basically, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, has to vet the product in order for the product to officially say that it is made in the United States. So it can use the made in USA product. If it's not, then but you can use assembled in the United States. That doesn't have to go through the oversight of the FTC.
Assemble to gets them out of the all that.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so you send it parts together, assembled, then you got U.S. on it. No other country has to be on it.
But if it says made in the USA, it has to go through the Federal Trade Commission in order to be approved to have that statement.
So it probably has a percentage that it needs to have.
Yes.
Like one of those 51% and you win, right?
Yeah.
Like bourbon. If there's enough corn in it, it can be bourbon.
Yeah.
I believe it's actually 90%.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Okay.
That's a high standard.
I believe it's around there. So yes.
Okay. So you can't just pop the head on the Barbie doll and say she was made in America.
Yeah.
No.
Bobby said there was once a town in Japan called USA, and it had manufacturing. It was labeling for labeling purposes.
That works.
Yeah, completely works.
They get points for creativity.
All right. So
Posse comitatus,
lupitatis,
which is Latin for
muxiomatus.
We're not having Chinese food for dinner. Behave yourself. which is the power of the county, as it translates from Latin.
Okay.
And it started basically in English common law, and a comitatus, which is basically a body of well-born men attached to a king or chieftain by the duty of military service. Okay. What posse comitatus, just to boil it down here, the Posse Comitatus Act, which is now 148 years old, generally prohibits the use of U.S. military as a police force on American soil to enforce civilian laws. 1878 enacted to prevent the military in domestic law enforcement and to limit the president's power to use military force for such matters. Okay? It's military versus civilian authority. There are exceptions to that which will enable the president to use the military. One is declaring an insurrection act, which to the best of my knowledge he has not done yet. Mm-hmm. So to bring in the Marines is currently illegal.
Well, can he bring in the Marines to
no
open up the
No.
Okay, you didn't let me finish my
open up the interstate. No, he can't use the Marines unless he declares the U.S. military cannot do civilian law enforcement in American soil. However,
the National Guard does
until he federalizes them.
Okay.
If he federalizes the National Guard, they become a branch of the U.S. military and again are subject to the Posse Comitatus Act.
Okay, how does the National Guard stop us from going across the bridge during hurricanes then?
Because they haven't been federalized. It's state. It's under state control.
Okay. Even though it's the National Guard?
Yeah, National Guards are all under the governor. The governor controls the state's National Guard.
All right.
Now, there's a bunch of loopholes and finagling that can happen here.
I'm sure he knows every one of those loopholes.
Oh, he's already called red state governors because, should Newsom, who apparently the president wants to arrest, have a nice day, doesn't want to call out the National Guard or ask for the National Guard, and he isn't doing it, and he should. He should call out the National Guard.
LA police is saying they got it.
Right.
I don't see that.
Well, it's because the National Guard's in the way and they can't see over them because they're very tall.
That's not true.
But, so much of that train of thought. If Newsom doesn't call out the California National Guard, Trump can go around him by asking Greg Abbott. He can get Wheels to send his National Guard over. You can get the National Guard from a neighboring state at the request of their governor to come in to effectuate things in California.
Okay.
So right now, half of the red state governors are drooling over the potential to do this because that'll get their bona fides when they want to run for president in 3 years from now. But that's it. So look, if he declares the Insurrection Act, which if they keep throwing bricks at the National Guard, he's going to do that. However, it's there to the Insurrection Act is to enforce civil rights laws. Originally, it was just the Army and Air Force, and how there was an Air Force back then is confusing to me. But they added Navy and Marines to the Army and the Air Force. The Coast Guard is exempt from this because they're more Homeland Security, and they have other duties. So Homeland Security is exempt from this. But the object is to suppress genuine rebellions. I don't think the people who are idiots throwing bricks at the National Guard
I don't think this is a
are
rebellion.
looking for a rebellion.
Yeah.
Which would then mean...
I think Newsom does need to call the National Guard in. And
well, they are. They're there, but they've been federalized.
Okay.
So they're no longer under his control.
Okay.
Unless it swings back and he says, yeah, I'll take charge of this.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of Newsom. So.
You know what? I know his ex-wife, and it shows me he has poor judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Just shivering on a couple of different thoughts that I won't say out loud.
Yeah.
But
by the way, that just became a reel.
Blake, there's $5 in it for you to erase that immediately. Now I don't care. What the hell? Make me famous.
That's not the one that you got to worry. Rebecca's grabbing that one. I can guarantee you that one.
Make me viral.
So, all right. Here's a question. James asked this question. How did the Marines in 1992 handle the? Why were the Marines there in 1992 during the Rodney King riots? Then
I don't know that the Marines were there. I know the National Guard was.
National Guard was definitely there. I
don't know that the Marines were.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not disputing. I don't know that, so I don't know. Jamie, how are you? Do you know that for a fact, my brother? Good friend from Long Beach.
Oh, is he a Long Beach guy?
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, good man.
I like him already.
Yeah.
So,
you should. He's a good man.
Yeah. So I like him already.
But I don't know that Blake, were the Marines involved in the Rodney King riots or just the National Guard?
Fact checker. So, all right. It is time for 5 questions. Blake's going to come up with those answers.
Yeah.
All right. I drew one out and I have 3 questions. Here we go. I'm going to hold them out like this.
All right. Real quick, the Marines were not part of the Rodney King riots. It was just the National Guard.
Yeah, I didn't think
Okay,
so.
There you go.
Okay.
Wait. Let's see what it is.
Oh, you get to ask a question?
I will read
Okay.
it when it is time. So, okay, that's interesting. We can lead off with that one. You wanna
Okay.
lead off with that one.
Sure, why
You
not?
read it?
Yeah.
All right. First of 5 questions. 5 questions. We got 20 minutes to get in these 5 questions. Blake, you are participating also, and I want you guys to participate at home. And Jamie, that includes you. All right.
Hang on. I just want to clarify one thing for some of the comments that are coming up about people. 95% of LA is going about business as usual.
Mhm.
The hot spots are around where the ICE are grabbing up people.
I
So
thought it
it's
was in
local.
Koreatown.
Could be in Koreatown, but it was at the detention centers. Now they've also gone into Home Depots to grab up the day workers.
Mhm.
But
Construction sites.
yeah,
No, I mean,
it's low hanging fruit, man.
Yeah.
Just low hanging fruit. And those guys are not necessarily all murderers, rapists, criminals, or came from insane asylums.
I'm not saying they are. I mean, the three guys that I know
Right.
that are being detained right now. I know they're illegal, but they're good guys. I
Right.
mean, they're not the people Trump is throwing an umbrella over all
Right.
of them. But they're still illegal.
And that's part of the problem. Right. You got an apple and an orange, but if you're going after the gang members and the criminals, start with them.
well,
know?
sometimes
And it's easier said than done. I understand that because, like I said, low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
A guy who's standing outside of Home Depot saying we'll work for $10 an hour
Mhm.
is gone in 60 seconds if whatever that movie was.
Yeah. But if you're throwing a cast net, it's easier to throw
Yeah.
the cast net and then
Correct.
pick out the dolphin, like you said.
Right, but they're not.
Keep the tuna and pick out the dolphin.
Right, but they're being so indiscriminate that they arrested, and I would like to hope they released him. A U.S. federal marshal got arrested by ICE because they're not asking for anything; they're just grabbing and going.
Yeah,
it's like your coffee in the morning. Give it to me. I got to get out of here.
I think he was detained a total of like 45 minutes.
Okay, well, fine.
So that I think that detainment it was extremely grabbed and blown out of proportion.
Well, if you got your ID in your pocket, you should be able to say, "See, I got a little star on my driver's license. Leave me alone."
Yeah.
Right.
So, all right. First question. Here we go. If you could rename the Earth, what would you name it?
Troyland. I can suck up with the best of them.
Yeah, the aliens just fly right by. They're like, we ain't going there. We heard about him. So, Blake, if you could rename the Earth, what would you rename the Earth?
The blue ball.
As long as you only use the singular.
Marble.
Right.
The blue marble.
Right.
Wasn't there a show called The Blue Marble?
Yes, I think it was like a PBS kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like one of those.
It's called The
Look
Blue
at Earth.
Marble.
Yeah.
So I just call it Third Rock. So, what you have you're sticking with Troyland?
Yeah, why not?
That is your final answer.
Oh, I got you, baby.
Okay.
I have a lot of faith in you.
Yeah, Troyland. Whew. I don't want that kind of pressure.
No pressure.
All right. Question number 2. When you were a child, think way back.
The last week. Okay, go ahead.
When you're chronologically a child,
Okay.
what's the first cereal you remember watching cartoons? Because if you were like me, and Blake's a little different. His TV genre was completely different than our experience.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was.
I'm talking about everyone's asleep. I woke up to watch, the Super Friends. And what's the cereal you poured for yourself? You put the milk and you sat on the floor and you watched the big console TV that you probably had in the living room.
You got to go turn by hand.
Yeah.
I got nothing. I didn't eat a lot of cereal as a kid. We didn't have a lot of cereal in the house. I mean, it was probably a Cheerio, but because first of all, you had a lot less selections when I was a kid.
Mhm.
In 1960, there weren't 3 full aisles of brightly colored, heightened sugared cereals. You know?
I remember
you had
having
Wheaties, you had Cheerios, you had Corn Flakes, you had Frosted Flakes if you wanted to amp up your sugar.
We had Apple Jacks. Apple Jacks is my answer. That's the one I remember having. You know, my grandmother was Nana was a diabetic, so she would just have like what is it, Special K. Then I'd have to load it with all the sugar on top of it.
Yeah, for you, yeah.
So at my grandmother's house, it was Special K.
Yeah.
And at our house, it was Apple Jacks.
I think when my grandmother was in for the
we never had
summer,
Cheerios. We never had none of that. We had sugar in our house. We
Well, I got one for you. You ever have shredded wheat?
A frosted shredded wheat.
Well, it's the only way to do it is frosted. Otherwise, it is just wow.
I feel like it is made to scar the roof of your mouth. Shredded wheat. Blake, you remember your first cereal? I don't really remember which one.
I didn't eat a lot of cereal as a kid.
I think it may have been like Lucky Charms, like something that had like marshmallows in it.
Ooh, magically delicious.
Captain Crunch.
Captain Crunch was.
I think it had something with marshmallows in it. Captain Crunch didn't really have a marshmallows.
No.
I think it was Lucky Charms.
So,
see, Captain Crunch was one of my go-tos when I got older.
Yeah.
You know? And again, I'm not a big cereal eater. I don't mind it now.
Toucan Sam, that was Fruit Loops, right?
Yes.
All right.
Because Trix is the rabbit.
Yep. Tricks are for kids.
Magically delicious.
Yeah.
I like Lucky Charms.
Lucky Charms. All right. Next question. This is more in your category, you know, because of your geographical location. I don't think Blake has an answer for this one because I don't think Blake's ever eaten a bagel in his life.
Wow.
Have you had a bagel?
Deprived.
A bagel?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I had a bagel before. Yes.
Okay, all right. I didn't know. I've never seen you eat a bagel.
Yeah. So I think I usually either get like a peanut butter Elvis bagel or a or
the banana
with the banana and bacon.
A little bit of honey on it.
Yeah. Or maybe like a plain bagel with actually a cheddar bagel with a cream cheese toasted.
Yep.
Okay. Don't forget the lox.
And James came back on Blake's fact checks. So he's saying that Marines from Camp Pendleton were ordered by President Bush to support law enforcement agencies in Los Angeles, quelling the rioting that broke out the 29th of April for Los Angeles police officers when the verdict came out for Rodney King.
Right.
So, all right.
In that case, I dearly apologize, James. Dad, please deduct $2 from my pay.
Okay. All right. That is.
We'll send it to Jamie. He'll put it to good use.
That is.
I know him well.
That is noted. Our fact checker, New York fact checker, gets $2.
Bagels.
My other question. I got a follow up question for James. Did they actually interact, or were they just doing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Traffic and control like that. So
and all the stuff on Posse Comitatus, nothing mentioned them there. The military was brought in a couple of times, and it was. Do I have it on that page? Let's see. It was it was civil rights. It was to get the kids into University of Mississippi, and
Birmingham, Selma.
No, it was the school. It was to get it was for the civil rights to get in the schools. Might have been there too. It was against Wallace and the president.
Wallace
didn't
was Alabama.
Yeah, and I think that's where it was.
Yeah, that Wallace was Alabama. So it might have been Birmingham. All right, what do you eat on your bagel? Blake already gave his Elvis.
A little bit of cream cheese. Just I don't need too much cream cheese. Good lox, a lot of lox. Black pepper, maybe a slice of onion, red onion. That works.
Okay. And I'm light cream cheese and just do it as a BLT.
That'll work. So. Now, we got to be careful because when you say light cream cheese to people, they go LITE as opposed to LIGHT. No. Light on the cream cheese. Yeah, I don't want a lot of it. Right.
Minimum.
There you go. Right. Absolutely.
I will order differently from now on.
Yeah, because I end up getting the
I don't know the last time I ordered a BLT, but I love a BLT bagel.
Right.
So, and I love a BLT anyway. So I made myself a BLT just last week. But
gotta have a good tomato.
Oh,
gotta have a good tomato.
Tomatoes, everything.
Yep.
Tomatoes, everything.
Yeah, you want to see no seeds and big beef steak.
It makes a difference in a burger too.
Absolutely.
So
true that. If it comes out pink or green, you're in trouble.
Well, fry them green ones up.
Right, but that's fine. Absolutely.
All right. We are going to go with this one. This one came out of the box. This is the one I drew out of the box. If you were offered a seat on the next space shuttle, the very next space shuttle, now they're closed. The next SpaceX.
Okay.
Yeah, politically, that might affect you a little bit.
No, he's back to he recommissioned the Dragon X.
Would you take it? Would you take the seat on? I'm changing it from space shuttle to SpaceX.
Right, to go up in space on the next launch.
Yep.
Yeah. Why the hell not? You only live once.
Blake, what about you?
I'm gonna have to say maybe. Like personally, like right now, I'm just not in like the best shape. But if it wasn't like the best shape possible to be on the rocket, yes.
Okay. I'm not in the best shape either. I'm probably in the worst shape I've ever been in my life, but I'm a hell yes.
Yeah, if Gail
yes.
King and Katy Perry can do it, I'm in.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
you go up. How big is the diaper?
I got a small bladder.
You know, hey, if Howard Wolowitz can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, I can do Fruit Loops.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. The final question tonight, and then we can come back to I have hybrid EVs and gas. What is your other one over there that you got?
Places that where people are moving to, or funny town names.
All right. This is the question right now. Food you would banish from the world. It just needs to go away and never come back ever again. You would banish this food. It's a tough one for a chef.
It really is. I ate out of character last night. We went out with friends and went to the Old City House Inn where I had their Chiapino.
So
it was delicious. They had Julie, Anna, and Ray all had the flounder special that looked beautiful. It was flounder with béarnaise sauce on it, mashed potatoes.
They do fish right there.
Yeah.
They do really a nice job with the fish.
And I had the Chiapino, which was, a fish stew.
Okay.
It comes from San Francisco, and, at the end of the day, all the people on the docks over at San Francisco Bay were trying to make dinner, and it was like, what are you chipping in? What are you chipping in? What are you chipping in? It became Chiapino. Mm-hmm. Everybody would throw something into the pot. It was really very good. I like the fact that there was some tarragon or a touch of Pernod in it, which brought out a little of the licorice flavor, a little anise flavor, and it was really delicious. I don't know. I'd say liver, but you know what? You can't do it because I like chicken liver very much. Fried chicken livers and cornmeal crusted are fabulous. If I can do a Veneziano, I can make a nice vision of that. That's an Italian dish where you cut the liver very, very thin and saute it with red wine vinegar and onions. And
you got to cook it at a very low heat.
Oh no, that you want crispy. Well, because you're taking the liver and you're slicing it into almost long juliennes, long strips, thin strips.
So you're almost deep frying it?
No, you're just sauteing it and getting it crispy with the onions and the red wine vinegar.
Because you overcook liver, you turn it into jerky pretty quick. So.
Yeah. I'm not a big, I'm not a big liver fan.
I just thought I made. Ooh, I got potato soup at the house.
Ooh.
I made it for today.
Okay.
Soups you got to let sit.
Absolutely, they got to grow a little bit.
Made a potato
right.
soup I just remembered it. All right, I get rid of green peas. I don't understand the necessary the purpose of green peas. It's just they're
good. They're good in some pasta dishes. They brighten up. I use them in my fried rice for color.
Mm-hmm. For color,
yeah,
not for flavor.
Yeah, they're okay, but yeah, what? Not a little can of LeSueur baby peas?
Nope. Green peas aren't my thing.
I can lose broccoli.
Yeah, you're not a broccoli guy.
Not a whole lot.
Yeah.
See,
I like steamed broccoli with melted cheddar on them.
Okay.
So
I'm in it for the cheese.
Cheddar, yeah,
right.
Totally in it for the cheese.
No
totally
doubt about it.
For the cheese and make me feel better
Yep.
about it because there's some green stuff in there.
Things that I didn't eat as a kid that I eat now, mushrooms, asparagus, things of that nature. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't touch them as a kid. Now I got no problem with them.
All right.
Go figure.
I like good asparagus.
I got a question for you, and one of the 5 questions that I remember from last week. What's the longest plane flight you've ever taken?
Well, the longest time I spent on a plane is different than my longest plane flight.
Okay.
My longest
tarmac doesn't count.
Okay, so it doesn't count. All right. I flew from Detroit to Tokyo.
Wow. Okay.
So that was the longest one. I think it was 16 hours.
I can see you and come pretty close.
I think it was 16 hours, and I got to Tokyo, and our final destination was Hong Kong. So I was like, man, we're almost there.
Yeah.
No, it's 5.5 more hours on the plane. I flew for.
And that's south. Hong Kong is south of Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Hong Kong, south of Japan. But that one, we traveled like 24 hours. Like we lost a day. We lost the 4th of July, I think in like 2004, 2005.
Really?
When we went to Japan and China. But the longest we sat on a plane, Blake was with me, is when we went to Johannesburg. We went to Atlanta, out into the middle of the Atlantic, back to New York.
Wow.
Sat there.
Yeah.
Sat there. There was a medical emergency. They had to make a decision. Okay, do we keep going or do we come back? And it was closer to go, which in my brain, when I look at a globe, I was like, why aren't we going back to Atlanta?
Right.
But the angle that you go to Johannesburg, which is way down here,
Oh, yeah.
it was closer to go to New York. I still don't understand that math.
Well, that's what we were talking about, and I guess we'll get to it on
We're talking
Wednesday
about that.
maybe when we talk about the EVs and stuff, that there's a, we'll give you a little highlight. There's a freighter that's off the coast of Alaska that's burning, that's got electric vehicles, and we were talking about it. It was coming from Shanghai and it was going to Mexico, and what the hell it's doing off the coast of Alaska is confusing me.
Yeah, I don't get how some of those things, and we're not really round. We're kind of like we're like elongated. But no, I didn't understand that. But we ended up sitting on the tarmac many hours.
Yeah. Which is
because
just so annoying.
Because they had to make a decision if they had to switch the crew, because whether the crew
Timed
could
out.
log enough hours, because the first flight that we went, I mean, we were well into the Atlantic when we went back we were 3 hours into the Atlantic.
Oof.
So it was 6 hours to go back to New York, and then New York to Johannesburg again. So, and then Johannesburg, we jumped on a plane to Zimbabwe. And then we got on this little tiny plane, like it was like a 206. And Blake's mom looked at me and went, "Can you fly this thing?" I was like, "Yeah, I got this one." Because the guy who was the pilot walked out, and he was maybe 4'10", and he said he was 22, but he didn't look a day over 15. And he was a tiny little dude, and this is we're flying over the savannah there. I mean, we're going out. On the first day, we stayed in these glamping huts way out in the bush. I mean, they could have just taken our organs. We'd have never known. Yes, so we had to wait for them to clear the baboons off of the runway coming back from that runway that we landed in the middle of the bush.
Yeah, we had a flight like that going from St. Martin to Anguilla, and it's one of these, 19-minute flights maybe. You go up and you come down, and the two young men that were flying the plane, they were 16 and 17. That was about it as well, but they were fine. It was just right across the channel. Longest flight I ever did was from Sydney to Los Angeles, nonstop. It was on about
16 hours?
Give or take. I think it might have been 15. It was like a 747 SP, they called it. They shrunk it down, so it wasn't as long, but they added extra gas tanks, extra fuel tanks to it. So 3 movies, 3 meals, and I drank every can of beer on the plane. They were pulling cans of beer from Belgium out of the back of the refrigerators that were just old, because they were, when a beer goes sweet on you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first flight to Hawaii was an 8-hour flight. And we had a medical emergency there, but we kept going. But I watched 2 full movies, and I still had 4 hours left.
Wow. Yeah.
It was from Houston to Honolulu.
Yeah.
Blake, go ahead.
But I definitely will say, like, I'm definitely grateful that we have like our personal entertainment, like our iPads and like
Nowadays.
our iPhones.
Yeah.
Like we can watch anything on there. But at the time, the only thing I presume for you, like for like your flight to Hong Kong, like what was like an onboard movie, or what was it like, just like being on the long ass flight before like a time of
was it on the screen? I remember watching them on the big screen. Like there was a screen there.
It was like a couple rows ahead of you. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was this was in 1980.
And they did have the earbuds with it being on the screen. You didn't have to watch that, but you had the ear. You plugged it in just like a transistor radio.
Yeah, that flight for me was in 1980. So yeah, it was a long time ago. And I remember one of the movies I saw was
I was in 8th grade.
Popeye with Robin Williams and Shelley Duvall. Thank you very much. Yeah. I could visualize it. Yeah. Yep. So
Gladly pay you Tuesday.
right for a hamburger today.
All right, tomorrow we have Task Force Hydro One. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Yes.
All right, not a local nonprofit doing a lot of great things. We're going to do that interview. We might talk a little bit about some other things, but we're excited about that interview tomorrow, Tuesday, and then we'll be back at it Wednesday, bouncing back and forth and doing the wager wire again.
Good, because I learned something that did I blow an opportunity to get rich.
Okay, I do that every day.
Yeah, well, I took Mets. Well, we'll talk about it on Wednesday.
Yeah,
it's fun. Yeah, we'll talk about it on Wednesday.
I would so love to be Marty McFly for a day. So,
all right, Calvin.
All right, guys. This is Bollocks this evening. Appreciate you guys. Please hit that share button. Keep an eye out for all our wonderful reels out there, and subscribe to our YouTube. Bye-bye.